So, I watched Shameless, and I have some thoughts. Craig was a straight-up punk. Messy. I'm talking the coke incident. Fiona had no business marrying that man. That was way out of left field. There was no spark, there was no chemistry, there was no fire. Teacher-student relationships are just throw it away. I'm gonna need someone to call Olivia Benson. I think that wigger phase was a thing. I don't know if this is going to be controversial, but I'm going to say it. Hi guys, I'm Zave. Welcome to the channel. I know you've seen the title of this video, but this isn't some big critique of the show. It's more like a fun little overview. I'm not going to go into things in a ton of detail, but what I do cover will be kind of expansive. So sit back. If you want to use this as a podcast, do some dishes, fold some laundry, listen on a long drive, feel free, because we have a lot to discuss. Let's talk characters, shall we? First off, the underappreciated queen, Fiona Gallagher. There will be no Fiona slander in this household. She worked so hard to take care of those children. How many kids are there? There's Lip, Ian, Debbie, Carl, Liam, 5 kids. 5 children that aren't hers. Obviously, the responsibility would fall to her, being the eldest sibling, but I'm just saying, she didn't get to have a real childhood. She was too busy having to be a mother to her siblings. That's a lot. Some people out here just don't be giving her the credit she deserves. Not to say that she's perfect, I mean, who is? Speaking of Fiona's issues, her taste in men, sis. And I get it. Who doesn't like a partner that's a little dangerous, a little rough around the edges? That can be alluring. But Fee, these men don't want no good, girl. These men don't want no good. Let's start with Steve. Or should I say Jimmy? Or should I say Jack? What is this man's name? Do we even know? He is a crook. He is a liar. He is a thief. He's not very wise, but I like him. As a character, I like him a lot. He really keeps you on your toes. One minute, he's shipping your alcoholic father to Canada. The next, he's using your brother to aid in his life of crime. Never really a dull moment with Jimmy Jack Steve. And I will say this. The chemistry between Justin Chatwin and Emmy Rossum, unrivaled. I don't think there is any love interest that Fiona ever had that matched that level of chemistry. Let me touch briefly on Tony. Tony was a very nice man. Fiona doesn't really like those. Man's never had a chance. And when he confided that Fiona was the first person he'd ever been with, and I feel bad because he liked Fiona so much more than she liked him, and he didn't have the wherewithal to just let it go. I stopped feeling for Tony when he became really possessive. Was not a good color on him. And as a joke in the show, his experience with Fiona made him gay, or made him realize he was gay. So, good for him. Then there was Craig, aka Kelly from that Chicago Fire show my parent used to watch. Craig was a straight up punk. I can't even be bothered to mention him again. In the 4th season, Fiona had a love interest named Mike, who was also her boss. Mike, like Tony, was a nice man. So that was never gonna work. In Fiona's defense, she was really trying to give it a fair shake. But she wasn't into that man. She just wasn't. That did not, however, give her the right to cheat on him with his brother. Messy. Now, during season 4, Fiona had this destructive spiral, and it was good TV. Cause I've mentioned I wasn't a regular viewer of the show while it was airing. I low-key started at the end of the 3rd season. And when last I tuned in, Fiona was stable, taking care of her family, business as usual. Next thing I know, everything had fallen apart. Gone way out of whack. I'm talking the coke incident. Robbie, the brother of her boss, Mike, who she had been cheating on with, gave Fiona some coke. Her literal baby brother, Liam, had gotten into said coke. As in cocaine. He ingested it. Fiona was arrested. It was crazy. In season 4, sis done lost her damn mind. She was arrested, broke parole, went on a bender, went to prison. She was really going through. And I really felt for her. So much. And Lip was so hard on her. Obviously, we need to take responsibility for our own actions, which she does by the end of the season. But she needed some grace, man. That was a bad situation. I really felt for Fiona in that season of her life. Not me talking about Fiona Gallagher as if she's a real person. Anyway, next was Gus. That ended horribly. Fiona had no business marrying that man. That man had no business marrying Fiona. A shotgun marriage? For what? For what? And then she done cheated on him with Jimmy Jack Steve, whatever his name is. A mess. A mess. And then after that, if y'all remember, Gus was a musician. Remember when he performed that hateful song about Fiona with her and Veronica in the audience? That was a mess. Now listen, y'all know I love Fiona, but she was acting up. Not only did she cheat on her husband with Jimmy Steve Jack, she also cheated with Sean, of all people. Who we'll get to him later. So I understand Gus's frustration. Still don't think he should have ambushed her with that song, or been so vindictive when Fiona was trying to get the house back. But I understand where he was at that point, where he was coming from. Let's talk about Sean. Sean with the song. There was no flavor, there was no spice, there was no seasoning. The way I saw it, if Fiona was happy, I'm happy. Like, sis, follow your bliss. I thought she could do way better, but who am I to say? Who am I? Was I happy she didn't end up marrying Sean? Yes. Was I happy about the way it went down? No. But it was good TV. The way Frank Gallagher came to her wedding and started spilling all the tea on everybody. He took no prisoners. Straight up executions in that mug. Oh boy, that was awful, but so entertaining. Sean was dishonest. He lied about his sobriety, and that was just too much. Too much. That whole wedding day was too much. Next we have Ford. Ford is probably the worst love interest Fiona ever had to endure. The worst love interest I ever had to endure. There was no spark, there was no chemistry, there was no fire. Now, Richard Flood is a wonderful actor. He was on Grey's Anatomy, he does great work. Ford is just a plank of wood, an Irish plank of wood. And I'm not trying to be malicious or be rude, literally in the writing of the show. I think Ford said, "What do you want, Fiona?" I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm so sorry. To all of Ireland, I apologize. I think Ford said, "What do you want, Fiona?" And Fiona said something like, "I want you to be madly in love with me." And Ford was like, "Nah, that ain't for me." But Irishly. And I was like,
Miss Jackson.
The thing about Ford too is like, what did she see in him? What is so appealing about Ford? On paper, I kind of get it. Tall, has an accent, speaks multiple languages, is good with his hands. Sure. But I felt that man was continually dissing Fiona at the beginning when they started talking. I'm like, girl, have some self-respect. This man treats you terribly and you just keep running back? Now Fiona. The other drawback of having a boring love interest, a boring storyline. This is gonna sound horrible, but at least with Mike, Fiona was cheating on him with his brother, so it wasn't boring. Now, getting off the topic of her love interests, I want to touch on her storylines. Something I like about Fiona is that she tried to rise above her so-called station in life. She was born into this extremely dysfunctional, low-income family in Chicago, but she tried to do better for herself and for her family, and that was very admirable. She got the job at Patsy's Pies through her whole legal situation, but then ended up managing the diner, eventually making a successful business out of it. In an earlier season, she tried her hand at party promoting. Later on, she bought that laundromat. She bought the apartment complex. She was really trying to do better for herself. And I think that a lot of people born into a certain situation are not able to escape it, so to speak. And I appreciate that us, as an audience, wanting better for these characters, got to see them work to be better. Do better than the lot they were given in life. In terms of her relationship with her siblings, I feel like she had a special bond with every sibling. She was really close with Lip. He was kind of like second in line to watch over the rest of the family, Often it was kind of rocky, to be honest, but it was a special relationship. She had a wonderful relationship with Ian, and was like a mother to Carl, Debbie, and definitely Liam when he was a literal baby. The sisterhood between Fiona and Veronica, underrated. I thought that was a very strong relationship, especially earlier on before the characters' storylines became so individual, with everyone off doing completely their own thing. But I love V. V and Kev are great. Actually, Kev is very dumb. Extremely dumb. Not real-world application dumb, like sitcom character dumb. He's very lovable. He means well. And honestly, he became increasingly silly as the show went on. I like to call this the Eric Matthews effect. Eric Matthews was a character on a show I used to watch reruns of called Boy Meets World. He started the show as a normal person and ended as a cartoon character. Now, he was a funny cartoon character, but a cartoon character nonetheless. Something similar happened with Kevin, often for comedic relief. I mean, he was never the brightest bulb, but he was street smart. Somehow that all went away for some reason. But V is my girl. She's just cool. There is also no V slander in this household. Shameless did this thing that a lot of shows do, where the main friendship of the show becomes strained. Insecure did it. Girlfriends did it, Grey's Anatomy did it. It's very common. I did not like seeing my girls go through that, but they came out of it fine. I really miss when Fiona and V were besties. I feel like after season 7, that relationship wasn't really touched on in the way that it used to be. Lip Gallagher was my favorite character when I was first watching the show. As a young male watching Shameless, Lip had a lot of admirable traits. Confident, smart, great with women, cool. I just thought he was the man. I think the Gallaghers having bad taste in partners is just a through line for the show. Lip is no different. Let's talk about Karen. Honestly, I thought she was fine. She was a fine character in the beginning. Then she got so awful, doing things I don't even think I'm allowed to mention on YouTube. And the way her character ended up was wild, to say the least. Permanently brain damaged after getting run over by my girl Mandy. Okay, so Mandy. This might be controversial, but she was my favorite love interest for Lip when I was first watching the show. I just thought the chemistry was there, I liked the character. Obviously, she's this girl in this bad situation, an awful family life, later on an absolutely terrible boyfriend. What I liked about Mandy was I felt there was a genuine care for Lip. The way she pushed for him to get into college, I never forgot that. Never. The thing was, watching the show through my adult eyes, it was just impossible to ignore the extent to which Lip was not feeling Mandy. He did not like that girl like that. If he had liked her the way she liked him, they would have been unbeatable. Okay, who's next? Amanda? Not a fan. Not one bit a fan. Never liked her. I think she's played to perfection by the actress, but I always found the character icky. I thought she was manipulative and controlling and lacked any moral compass. She wasn't all bad. The times when she would watch over Liam when Fiona was going through her legal issues was really very sweet. But nah, we do not stand Amanda in this household. And of course, her actions led to essentially the downfall of Lip Gallagher. But I'll get back to that. Okay, so next we have Helene. Teacher-student relationships are just throw it away. Hang it up. Black screen, I would have dragged you regardless. At least in this instance, the relationship is between two consenting adults. But that does not change the fact that teacher-student relationships are toxic, morally repugnant, completely unethical. They are not sexy, they are not cool, they are not fun to watch. Except when they are like on Shameless. I'm sorry, wait, hold on. Y'all know where I stand on relationships between young, impressionable students and teachers who know better. But when I was a kid watching the storyline, god dang, that relationship was fuego. Muy caliente. It was spicy. Is this a safe space? Probably not, it's the internet. I think what it is I'm biased towards Sasha Alexander. She is a wonderful actress. She was on Rizzoli and Isles and NCIS, and I just think the world of her work. That is why I was swept up in that whole Helene fiasco. Obviously, it was never going to work. The foundation was rocky, and Lip and Helene most definitely wanted different things out of this relationship. I mean, Helene is a married mother in an open relationship, and Lip is a young college kid. There's no future for these people. Y'all, Helene is a predator. I'm sorry. I said what I said. She has a history of predatory behavior towards her students. She is a cougar hunting her young prey. I know I'm being playful about this serious topic, but just to be serious for a second, if that was my child, well, not if I was Frank, if I was like a good father, if that was my child in that situation, I can only imagine the horror that I'd feel. Even though the show started with that storyline being very, ooh, it's sexy, it's alluring. It does show the collateral damage and the effect that these situations bring about. So I do appreciate that at least. But now that I'm grown, had my feelings changed while watching their storyline? Child, anyway, so next we have Sierra. Not a fan. I mean, she wasn't bad, really. In terms of their relationship, I felt a little bit of Lip's hero complex at play, which is fine. And again, there was nothing really wrong with the character. I think they each could find partners that better suit them. The stuff with her son and Chet Hanks and Lip trying to make him relapse, it was meshy. I wasn't into it. There was that crazy tatted lady, Eddie. Moving on. No, the stuff between Lip and Eddie's daughter, Zan, that was cute. Or wait, was it her daughter or her niece? Let me look it up real quick. Okay, no, it was her niece. Not her daughter, her niece. I misspoke. Eddie's niece, Zan. No, that was wholesome. I actually liked that. I honestly thought they could have gone further with that storyline. Next, we have this gal. Her name is Tami. Y'all, let me warn you, I'm about to be rude. That woman is tacky. When she was first introduced, I was like, ew, get this girl off my screen. I wanna highlight Kate Miner. Killed the role. Her acting, that's not what this is about. I just felt the character was very abrasive, very unpleasant. I remember one time she was talking about that gene in her family that kind of puts her at risk.
BRCA.
And when Lip asks about it, she ridicules him like he's an idiot for not being familiar with the BRCA mutation. Because everybody knows about the BRCA mutation. That's the thing. A bit of witty banter is cute. Tami was just mean. Tami often did not treat Lip with respect, and that to me was what I didn't really like. Later on, really and truly, she mellowed out. She started to be the voice of reason in their relationship. But earlier on, man, I was baffled at what Lip saw in her. It was Ford all over again. This person does not treat you well. Why are you with them? Okay, another thing about Tami, there was a storyline where her life was on the line after the birth of their baby. And this is gonna sound bad, but if she had died, I think it would have been really compelling seeing Lip navigate life as a single dad. Maybe he could have got with that hot mom. I don't know. What was her name? Sarah? Oh, she and Lip? Now they had chemistry. Anyway, I'm glad Kate Miner got to work on the show for all those years and be a series regular. So I'm not saying her character should have died. I'm just saying it could have been an interesting storyline to pursue. Now let's get into Lip's storyline, namely the alcoholism. I feel like human beings have a finite amount of problems that you can dramatize. Sickness, tragedy, addiction, and so on. So when a series wants drama, they often feature one of their main characters falling into some sort of addiction. In a lot of shows, it feels very inorganic, just out of nowhere. We need drama, so now so-and-so has developed an addiction to something. And then they try to pretend that this was hinted at before when it wasn't by recontextualizing the past. But I just don't buy it. We are not stupid. Us viewers might have been born at night, but not last night. And I'm not hating on this trope. In 13 Reasons Why, when Justin becomes addicted to heroin, it was very believable. He was a teenage boy on the streets. When Kevin Pearson on This Is Us became addicted to painkillers and such, that was believable too. He was a famous actor for one, how common is that, who, two, suffered an injury on set. It just makes sense. And I don't know where the fandom lands on this issue, but I bought Lip's alcohol addiction. I bought it. He was on track to have a better life. And once his vengeful ex-girlfriend, the aforementioned Amanda, exposed his relationship with his professor, Helene Runyon, the future he believed he was on track to fulfilling fell away completely. He lost his relationship with Helene because she rightfully was punished. Then he started self-destructing and ended up kicked out of school. He was going through a lot. So I could see why he would find solace in alcohol and how that could spiral out of control. Because what I think the writers were doing were showing a juxtaposition between Frank Gallagher and his son. Because Lip Gallagher is brilliantly smart. I think his father was similarly smart, but didn't have too much of a drive and got mixed up with the wrong people and ended up falling into alcoholism. And Lip found himself in a position where he could easily end up just like his father. I think in real life, you see one of many options. Perhaps the child of an addict never touches the stuff, or perhaps the apple does not fall far from the tree. In Lip's case, it unfortunately was the latter. Lip is one of my favorite characters. I did not want to see him struggle with this issue, but I think this was an interesting direction to go with the character. Many people suffer from addiction, and I think watching Lip overcome his own struggles with addiction was a powerful concept. The relationship with his mentor, Professor Youens, I thought that was very compelling. Kind of tugs at your heart, that storyline. Because in Youens, there are parallels to Frank. Youens was an addict, like Frank, but definitely a better mentor slash father figure to Lip, because he often showed that he actually cared about the boy more than just himself. Moving on to Ian. I really like Ian. I think he has a good heart. I think that disconnect that Frank has with him is interesting. And I noticed how it was mentioned in the pilot with Ian saying, "He hates me." Well, Ian is not Frank's biological son. Ian is Monica's son in so many ways. The first time around, I didn't watch the early season episodes that featured Monica, but I've come to know her as quite the hurricane. She suffers from mental illness, and that was transferred directly to Ian. I like how the writers decided they were going to tackle bipolar disorder in Ian by laying the groundwork for that story. We saw Ian was acting differently for several episodes, and by the time he crashed after his manic high, it was solidified where we were going with this story. And there was some terrific drama mined from Ian's mental struggles. But before I touch more on that, let's talk about Ian's love interests. We're gonna pass over Kash because that is heinous criminal activity. I don't even want to dignify that situation by calling it a relationship. Revolting, disgusting, nasty, awful. I'm gonna need someone to call Olivia Benson. Sir, you are a married Muslim man with children. Ian is literally a teenage kid. What is wrong with you? You should be ashamed of yourself. Anyway, Jimmy's dad. Moving right along, Mickey Milkovich. So that relationship started out toxic as all get out. It was rough. Obviously, the chemistry is there, but Mickey comes from a family of racist, white supremacist miscreants. That family is jacked up. So of course, they would not be cool with him being gay, especially his crazy, evil father. So I can understand where the toxicity came from, but I cannot defend it. I just felt that Ian deserved so much better. So I was happy when Mickey did choose Ian, and by extension, himself. Mickey became a really great partner to Ian. Not perfect, mind you. Mickey is a particular kind of man, but there was genuine care and affection. Even when Ian's mental issues started to manifest, Mickey never left his side. So I came to appreciate their relationship. I feel like their relationship is the relationship of the show. So when Noel Gallagher, the guy who plays Mickey, decided to move on from the show, I wondered what would happen because their relationship was so central. What we had next was Caleb. The concept of Caleb was interesting. What we got was a normal, stable relationship for Ian. We'd never seen that before. No secrets, not too many lies, no internal homophobia, no external homophobia, no toxicity. It was interesting in that it was completely untouched terrain for Ian. Unfortunately, the chemistry wasn't quite there. Caleb was just kind of there. You know, I mean, there was nothing wrong with him, but, well, I shouldn't say there was nothing wrong with him. He had a lot of faults. I think with Caleb, the actor who played him got another gig, so they had to write him off quickly. So his character was completely altered to facilitate a clean exit. I don't understand why Caleb all of a sudden would cheat on Ian, trying to gaslight the boy into thinking it was no big deal, and not only cheat on Ian, but do so with a woman. That was way out of left field. I guess the writers were like, it's best to make Caleb the bad guy so when the character departs, it's a clean break? I don't know, that was out there. I do wish he could have been written out more gracefully, but I do think that catapulted Ian into another conceptually interesting storyline, because then he started dating Trevor, a trans dude who advocates for homeless LGBT plus youth. The idea of Ian exploring this world was a completely new journey for him, and there were some funny storylines bred from that exploration, but the main flame was always Mickey. I was so happy when he came back in season 7 to close out his storyline. And I was especially happy when they both came back in season 9. Because Cameron Monaghan left the show in season 9, but came right back the next year with Noel Fisher. Bro, that was a treat. I didn't think that would ever happen. But the fans, they played a part in that, so I commend them. If there's anything the recent years have taught me, it's that the fans have more power than you might expect. Look at the Snyder Cut. Look at the character design for the Sonic movie. Fans get things done. But their first episode back, I was laughing so hard. Harder than I'd laughed at that show in a long time. They injected some much needed energy into that show, so that was great. And the Gallavich wedding? One of the best episodes in the entire series. So good. The last thing I'll say about Ian is what that representation did for me. I hope I don't sound too ignorant, but watching that show as a kid, I'd never seen gay people on TV like Mickey and Ian. Usually they're very sassy, happy-go-lucky, best friend types, you know, very in touch with their feminine side. And obviously, sassy gay people are a thing. They're not fictional. People be gay. But there is so much more than that, you know? Gay people are not monolithic, just like black people aren't. I remember a long time ago, one of my teachers saying something along the lines of, with how black people tend to be portrayed in movies, what else are people whose only point of reference are such movies supposed to think of them? And I was offended, but thinking back, I literally did not know that there were gay people like Mickey and Ian. And I think that speaks to representation and the so-called responsibility of representation. Because tons of gay guys were probably watching TV for years and thinking, man, I cannot relate to any of these characters. They are nothing like me. Obviously, Ian and Mickey are not the catch-all for the rest of gay male representation. And of course, there were times where they were more in touch with their feminine sides. But I think not just Shameless, but the other shows that have come and shown the multifaceted nature of the community deserve recognition as well. So I do credit Shameless to opening my awareness to certain things. This scene though,
I'm a triracial cisgendered girl.
Gender fluid, hetero-romantic, demisexual,
Member. Chinese Mexican, agender, intersex, AFAB. My pronoun is they.
I still don't know what they're talking about, but I'm with them in spirit. Okay, I'm just going to touch on a few more characters. Debbie. She started out sweet, kinda wild, for instance, stealing that baby, but sweet. Like Carl, she loved her father very much. But boy, did her character take a turn. I'm not going to even mention the horrible things she has done, but I will say they are bad. I'm not going to even talk about her love interest, because at least 3 of them were her victims. That's all I'll say. Carl. Carl has had some interesting storylines. I really liked the puppy love relationship with Bonnie. She is actually my favorite love interest for Carl to this day. To this day! Dominique is a no for me. I always thought she liked attention too much. Too much. Kassidi is a heck no for me. Heifer crazy. I will say, I wish she was written out the season she was introduced. I feel like the Gallaghers often don't have a great sense of self-respect when it comes to their romantic entanglements, so it would have been so empowering if Carl had broken things off with Kassidi. Instead, she was brought back the next year only to be murdered off screen? Listen, I didn't even like the girl, but that was so undignified. That was too much. Kelly I disliked from the moment she was introduced. She was just, No. Then she kind of grew on me when she worked to help Carl get into West Point. But then her character went all over the place. One moment, you're the one I love. The next moment, cheating on Carl while at camp and giving him a venereal disease. Wishy-washy. She was wishy-washy. Very sometime-ish. Not a fan. Okay, this might be a hot take, but I loved Anne. And hear me out. What I loved most about Anne, she was a love interest with self-respect. She was not willing to just be Carl's fling. She was a little edgy, which the Gallaghers are into, but she also had substance. I wish she stuck around and became an actual main character, because I just thought she had so much potential. Tish. So what was that? Like, how did she get pregnant so fast? There's just so much to unpack there involving consent and a whole bunch of other stuff that I just don't have the mental fortitude to deal with right now, so I'm gonna just move on. To close out Carl, I'll say, I think that storyline when Frank convinced Carl that he was sick was so messed up and madly hilarious. I think that Wigaphase was a thing. I didn't like that journey for Carl as a character, but it was compelling television. I can still see Fiona loosening his cornrows after the drama with the gun in the house and witnessing his friend commit murder. A few years ago, Carl was on a dangerous, destructive path. The fact that he's become a police officer now is wild on so many levels. Hey, good on you, bro. Liam. Okay, last I remember, if I remember correctly, a paternity test within the show confirmed that Liam is Frank's biological child. Now, I don't remember if that joke was ever overturned, but this is a TV show. I don't take it that seriously. And there are instances where a Caucasian couple give birth to a black baby because somewhere in the ancestry, there is some black heritage. But then again, Carl was trying to get into West Point, I think, but then they saw that he had no black ancestry somehow, but yet he had Native American ancestry. So listen, this is Shameless. The show is very unserious, and I will treat it as such. Liam, though? Liam is cool, man. They did that sitcom thing where they rapidly aged up his character. The season before, he was a younger kid, and then the next season, he was like 9 or 10 years old or something. And with Liam, we have the one Gallagher sibling that always cared about Frank. He never wrote him off, which was interesting. Svetlana. This might be controversial, but I love Svetlana. Obviously, she was a huge obstacle for Mickey and Ian in the beginning, and I don't even want to get into the traumatic situation that resulted in her being the mother of Mickey's child, allegedly. If you know, you know. But later on, I don't know. Svetlana was pretty cool. The throuple she was in with Kev and V, craziness, madness, but kind of funny. Yeah, I like her. Sammi and Chucky. I don't feel like touching on them, but I wanted to at least acknowledge them. What I will say about Sammi, she was a good villain. Sheila, a pillar of the show's early days, for sure. Sheila. The last character I'll touch on is Frank Gallagher. And this will be brief. I can't stand him. He is scummy, dirty, dusty, low-down, selfish yuck. He is played to perfection by William H. Macy, but that's the only praise I can offer him. I will say, for me personally, he had 2 surprisingly compelling storylines. The first was in season 4, when he was dying. There was an episode where he was in a hospital bed next to this little girl named Emily. He was in a mental state of confusion and thought the little girl was Fiona. That was really sad, especially when Emily died in the hospital. The second story was Bianca. I did not think that I would actually feel anything watching that storyline involving the terminally ill doctor who started a relationship with Frank in order to live out her final days to the fullest. But it was good. I felt for Frank, and I rarely do. Okay, so Shameless was a wild show. I've often wondered why a sheltered kid like myself would be drawn to such a show. Oh well, I found it very, very funny. Maybe my humor is broken. Again, oh well. I will say, I was surprised when Emmy announced that she would be leaving. By that point, I don't think I was watching the show, but to me, she has always been the star of the show. This might not be the consensus. Some feel Frank is the star, others feel it's Fiona, but I really think she is the center of the Gallagher story. More so than Frank because he's such an uninvolved father. He can be so removed from his kids. But Fiona, she's in the trenches, whether it's Debbie's pregnancy or Carl's legal issues or Ian's mental well-being. Fiona is like the glue. But after 9 seasons, I can't fault someone for wanting to move on. I do wish she was able to appear at the end in some way, but I'm glad the finale at least made references to her character. So I really enjoyed finally watching Shameless from the beginning. Watching season 1 and 2 of Shameless, I can really understand why people have comfort shows. Spending some time with his family for an hour, it was just so nice. I really enjoyed it. It was so fun. Season 3, I was stressed. I still enjoyed it, but I was stressed. Okay, but my favorite season would have to be season 4. It was nice to watch the whole season from beginning to end, and season 4 has literally one of the best season finales I have ever seen in my life. My second favorite season? Season 7. I really like Season 7. There were a ton of fantastic moments in Seasons 5 and 6. But 7 was like next level for me. It really was a treat to watch. I think I'll say that was Frank's third compelling moment for me. Because Season 7, I felt like it had a strong storyline, ending with the Gallagher matriarch, Monica, her return, and eventual death. The story we got was so make you want to smack your mama or give her a hug. Watching the aftermath of Monica's death unfold was powerful. And Frank's grief. I can't fully remember the context. I think it had something to do with the meth that Monica left her family as an inheritance. Whatever. Anyway, Frank got into this big disagreement with his family. And in the midst of his grief, the man chokes out Debbie. Obviously, the whole family had to intervene. Everyone was there. They were fighting him off. He done grabbed Fiona's hair during the struggle, and she was like, ah! It was horrifying and messy and compelling. At Monica's funeral, Frank had this speech, and I really felt for him. He was like, when I look at you, I see her. Monica is in all of you. William H. Macy's acting was immaculate. In that moment, Frank was almost an actual father to his children, and that was so beautiful. There was kind of a reconciliation between everyone at the end. At the after party, maybe after party is the wrong word. At the get-together after the funeral, Frank extends his hand to Fiona, and she takes it, and they dance. It was a wonderful arc, and in the end, to me, I don't know if this is going to be controversial, but I'm going to say it. If Shameless had ended right then, from a story perspective, I would have been satisfied. It was a very hopeful ending, and it was very meaningful, poignant. Carl is off to military school, I think, something like that. Debbie is working as a welder. She sees a handsome dude at work. Maybe there'll be a connection there. Lip is not quite back on the road to being a college student, which is sad, but maybe one day he will. For now, he's working on his sobriety. He's got his sponsor, Brad. Things are looking up. Ian is working as an EMT. He is stable, healthy. That season, we got to see him briefly reunite with Mickey. Maybe one day they'll reunite for good. Hashtag Gallavich endgame. Then with Fiona, she's thinking about buying the apartment complex, rising above her station in life, doing better for herself. So the ending was really hopeful without being crazy wish fulfillment. They didn't win the lotto at the end or something, but they were on a good path. And Monica had passed, so it was heart-tugging, and it brought the family together. Their interactions as a family was what made the show, at least for me. So it was really amazing to see them come together physically, because as they grew older, everyone kind of had their own separate storyline, but also come together emotionally. To me, the season 7 ending encompassed everything that makes a conclusion meaningful. In terms of the actual ending of Shameless, I like how there was no big event in the Shameless finale. I think that's realistic. I mean, Frank died, which was huge, but they don't really care about Frank. We never got to see it confirmed to the family that he died, so there was no real emotional pull to his death, except for the audience, of course. But even the audience didn't get to feel it fully by watching the characters grapple with it. But then again, to what extent would they have even cared? Frank being dead wouldn't really change their lives that much, generally speaking. Save for Liam, he wasn't really a great presence in their lives, especially at that point in the story. One thing about this show that disappoints me, personally, is that for the Gallagher family, they were always trying to do better, be better, but then get knocked down. I mean, I get it to an extent. How many people really achieve their dreams? How many people are able to rise above their station in life and obtain financial freedom? Don't get me wrong, it's possible. It happens all the time. But ultimately, I don't think that Shameless was interested in telling a rags to riches story. I am just heartbroken to see a whip-smart Lip Gallagher help that trader, but then have to go back to struggling just to put food on the table and provide for his family. And not even try to go back to school or do something with his talents, you know? Or heck, use that brain of his to run a scheme or something, you know? But I guess that's real. There are so many brilliant people who are stuck in a situation. I am just so invested in these characters, I want the best for them. But I suppose the best for them would be an entirely different show. I don't know, I just always felt that they could never triumph over anything. And that's pretty sad. How their story ended was pretty sad. It wasn't quite as hopeful as the season 7 finale. In the end, Lip is considering selling the house for an inconsequential amount of money. Debbie is thinking about being an irresponsible parent by going off with her daughter to travel with some random woman who I suppose is acting as a proxy for Jimmy Steve Jack from the pilot. I guess Carl and Ian and Mickey are fine, and I suppose that Lip will take care of Liam. For me, this ending didn't resonate as much as I wish it could have. Shout out to the cast for their hard work all of these years. Everyone was incredible. Man, Shameless was a ride. I'm glad it had a small place in my life, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and comment. And if you somehow got this far, wow, that's incredible. Consider subscribing. And if you'd like to see another video about Shameless, check out my reaction to the first and last episodes of the show. It's one of the best videos on this channel, and if you're still watching this video, I think you'd enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. You will see me when you see me. Bye.